There's a version of this story that sounds almost too strange to be real. A rocket scientist who designed missile systems for the Pentagon walks away from it all to build surfboards, and then somehow ends up creating one of the most respected sailing yacht brands in American history. But that's exactly what happened. Island Packet Yachts has launched over 2,500 boats from a small factory in Largo, Florida, and their owners have sailed them across every ocean on Earth. Some have circumnavigated the globe. Some have crossed the Atlantic in midwinter, and every single one of those boats was born from one man's stubborn, almost rebellious refusal to follow the trends of the sailing industry. To understand Island Packet, you first have to understand Bob Johnson. And to understand Bob Johnson, you have to go back to a carport in Florida, where a 14-year-old kid is building a boat. Not a model boat, a real 12-foot gaff-rigged V-bottom catboat with a bowsprit. His mother sewed the sails from fabric they bought at Sears. As Johnson himself put it, "I guess I was genetically programmed to be a boat builder." His 9th grade civics paper was titled, "My Career in Naval Architecture." Most kids that age are trying to figure out how to talk to girls. Bob Johnson had already mapped out his entire professional life. And he followed through. He earned his bachelor's in mechanical engineering from the University of Florida in 1965, graduating with high honors. Then went to MIT and earned his master's in naval architecture and marine engineering in 1967 on a National Science Foundation traineeship. Course 13 at MIT, for those who know the program, trains people to design warships, submarines, and offshore platforms. It is not a place for hobbyists. But here's where the story takes its first unexpected turn. After MIT, Johnson didn't go build boats. He went to work for McDonnell Douglas Corporation in Culver City, California, in their vibration, shock, and acoustics department, designing and analyzing missile system structures. Rockets, weapons of war, about as far from a gaff-rigged catboat as you can possibly get. Southern California pulled him back toward the water, though not through sailing, through surfing. The late 1960s surfing boom was exploding along the coast, and Johnson, the aerospace engineer, spotted an opportunity. In 1969, he left the missile and space industry to develop a new range of molded surfboards constructed from lightweight aerospace composite materials. He sold them under the trade name Hollow Wave, manufactured by the Wave Corporation of Ventura, California, a rocket scientist making surfboards. But surfboards weren't the destination. They were a waypoint. In 1974, Johnson returned to Florida and entered the sailboat industry, joining Irwin Yacht and Marine Corporation in Clearwater as a designer. His responsibilities quickly expanded to cover production management for all Irwin sailboat products, ranging from 23 to 52 feet. After Irwin, he moved to a then-new company called Endeavor Yacht Corporation, also in Clearwater, where he spent 3 years doing similar work. During this period in the late 1970s, the sailing industry had fallen into a very particular fever. It was the heyday of the IOR-inspired racer cruiser. IOR stands for International Offshore Rule, a racing handicap system that drove boat design toward fin keels, flat bottoms, pinched ends, and extreme hull shapes optimized for speed ratings rather than actual ocean sailing. Boat builders were cranking out what you might call rockets, fast on paper, impressive at the dock, but often miserable and even dangerous offshore in heavy weather. Bob Johnson looked at all of this and decided he wanted no part of it. When he left Endeavor in the summer of 1979, he founded his own company. The corporate name was Traditional Watercraft Incorporated, and the name itself was a statement of intent. Traditional, not trendy, not racing inspired. His startup capital was, to put it gently, limited. He bought the almost new molds for a 26-foot centerboard sloop called the Bombay Express from the recently defunct New Bombay Trading Company. The boat had been designed by Walt Scott as a beamy cat sloop, with a sales manager named Chris Petty serving as the prime mover behind its creation. Johnson redesigned the interior, the rig, and various other elements, then introduced the boat simply as the Island Packet. In his own words, "Since I had very limited capital, construction of the first boats was subcontracted out to the local custom shop that had built the plug and molds. My marketing consisted of a detailed brochure and classified ads in Cruising World, and the sales office was our kitchen at home." The kitchen at home. That's where one of America's great yacht companies started. Not in a gleaming corporate office, not with venture capital backing, at a kitchen table with a stack of brochures and a classified ad in a sailing magazine. The early boats were built by Marine Innovators, a Clearwater company. It wasn't until 1983 that Johnson purchased a small manufacturing building in Largo, hired his first employees, and began producing island packet yachts with his own hands and his own team. And there's a wonderful detail about that building. It was the first structure erected on Wild Acres Road, and Bob chose 1979 as the street address, the year he'd founded the company. That same year, 1983, everything changed. Johnson introduced the Island Packet 31 at the Annapolis Boat Show, and it was, by all accounts, an unqualified success. He called it the do or die boat, and his words were precise. I bet everything on it, financially and emotionally, and it was a completely new boat from the ground up, not an evolution of an earlier design. The IP-31 stayed in production until 1989, with 262 boats built. For a small company handcrafting cruising sailboats, those are remarkable numbers. But what made the Island Packet 31, and every island packet that followed, truly distinctive wasn't its size or its accommodations. It was what was happening below the waterline. The sailing world has been arguing about keels for as long as there have been sailboats. On one side, the traditional full keel, that long, deep shape running much of the hull's length, tracks beautifully in a straight line, proves incredibly strong, protects the rudder, and gives a boat a gentle, forgiving motion in a seaway. On the other side, the modern fin keel, a short, deep blade far more efficient at generating lift to windward, makes boats faster and more maneuverable, but creates a harsh, snappy motion in waves and leaves the boat vulnerable to damage from grounding or submerged objects. Johnson asked a deceptively simple question. How do you preserve the seakeeping and safety of a traditional full keel while improving performance and maneuverability like the newer fin shapes? His answer was to take the modern U-shaped underbody of the fin keel boats and essentially shorten and stretch it lengthwise, giving it a longer chord length with less draft. He used NACA foil sections, the same airfoil profiles from aerospace engineering, to shape the keel as a true hydrodynamic foil rather than a simple slab-sided plank. The result was a keel that maintained the lateral surface area needed for windward ability, preserved the tracking stability and gentle ride of a traditional full keel, and generated lift as speed through the water increased, much like a modern fin. It accomplished all of this with less than 5 feet of draft, with some models offering a shoal option as shallow as 4 feet 6 inches. This was not a compromise. It was engineering, and it came directly from a mind trained in aerospace at MIT. Johnson's construction philosophy was equally uncompromising. One piece, hand-laminated solid fiberglass hull and keel, built as a single molding. No bolt-on appendages. No keel bolts to corrode and fail. Triaxial knitted laminate integration for superior strength and impact resistance. He developed his own gel coat protection system called Polyclad and backed it with a 10-year warranty against osmosis blisters, with a standard 3-year stem-to-stern warranty on top of that. And here's a detail that perfectly captures the man. Johnson designed each boat the old way, with hand-faired lines lofted into full-sized mylar templates used to cut mahogany molds for each hull. His director of sales, Bill Bolin, once remarked simply, "He doesn't have a computer on his desk." The boats themselves were, to use a word that came up repeatedly in the press coverage, vanilla. That stubby, full transomed, roomy shoal draft profile wasn't going to win any beauty contest at the marina. Naval architect Robert Perry, one of the most respected voices in yacht design, put it plainly. Bob has had a distinct image of what makes a good sailboat, and he has been faithful to that image for many years. Trends come and go, usually fueled by the latest racing handicap system, but Bob's IPs stick to the formula that has made them a resounding success. Resounding is the right word. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Island Packet rolled out model after model. The IP-27 arrived in 1984, essentially a Mark III of the original 26, with 249 boats built before it was discontinued in 1992. The IP-38 followed in 1986. The groundbreaking IP-35 arrived in 1988 as the first next-generation model with a refined full-foil keel. The IP-32 came in 1989, then the IP-29, IP-44, IP-40, IP-37, IP-45, and the IP-350, which introduced the transom swim platform. By 1987, Bob and his team had already produced close to 400 sailboats. The company even took an unexpected detour in 1992 with the Packet Cat 35, a cruising catamaran, though the monohulls were always the core of the business. Island Packet became the first U.S. sailboat builder certified CE Category A Ocean, meaning their boats met European community standards for unlimited ocean passage making. In 1999, Bob Johnson received the Industry Award for Leadership from Sail magazine. The real proof of these boats, though, wasn't in awards or certifications. It was on the ocean. Mike Smith, his wife Amy, and their 3 children completed a trade-wind circumnavigation via the Red Sea on their Island Packet 40 between 1997 and 2000, covering 29,765 nautical miles. When they were done, they sold the boat for slightly more than they'd paid for it new. Chuck and Lynn Evans completed their own circumnavigation on their Island Packet 380, arriving back in the Florida Keys on New Year's Day 2013, flying the flags of every country they'd visited. As Johnson said, "The coolest thing for me is knowing that a large number of our owners have completed circumnavigations or made extended voyages across oceans to adventurous destinations." No company's story is without its dark chapters, though. By 2016, after decades of operation, traditional watercraft was in trouble. In mid-April of that year, the company was acquired by Hake Yachts, which combined operations to build Island Packet, Blue Jacket, and Seaward yachts in the Largo facility. The Blue Jacket 40 had been a collaboration between Bob Johnson and Tim Jacket, the longtime Tartan Yachts designer, and it won Cruising World's 2014 Domestic Boat of the Year. But the Hake arrangement proved short-lived, and by 2016, many in the industry believed Island Packet was on the rocks. The brand that had defined American cruising sailboats for 3 decades seemed to be fading. Where many saw trouble, Daryl and Leslie Allen saw opportunity. The Allens had been Island Packet dealers in San Diego for over 25 years. They knew these boats intimately, knew the owners, knew the brand, and in January 2017, they took ownership, and the company became Island Packet and Seaward Yachts. They started with just 13 employees, bringing back craftsmen with 20 or more years of experience building island packets, and they fundamentally shifted the business model. In their words, "We are no longer a production boat company. Our goal is not to build our boats to a price point. Instead, we build the best boat possible at a great value. We do not build hundreds of boats each year. Our team of master craftsmen treats each yacht as a custom piece of art." The comeback was swift and emphatic. In 2018, they introduced the IP349, which the industry immediately dubbed the comeback boat, and the following year it won Cruising World's 2019 Domestic Boat of the Year. In 2021, the IP439 won Cruising World's Best Full-Size Cruiser of the Year. The brand wasn't just surviving, it was winning. Today, Island Packet Yachts operates from 5 acres with 52,000 square feet of covered manufacturing space in central Pinellas County, Florida. They employ over 50 people and produce 3 core models: the IP349, the IP439, and the 42 Motor Sailor. New boats start at $399,000. Bob Johnson, now in his 80s, remains involved as a consultant, still guiding the designs, still faithful to the vision he held when he was a 14-year-old boy building a catboat in a carport. There's a wonderful tension at the heart of Island Packet's story. The sailing world constantly chases performance, innovation, and the next breakthrough in speed and efficiency. And a fin keel will always be more efficient to windward than a full keel. That's just physics. But Island Packet has never been about winning races. It's been about getting you and your family safely across an ocean and back again, in comfort, with a boat that forgives your mistakes instead of punishing them. Over 2,500 boats, circumnavigations on every ocean, 45 years of continuous production through economic downturns, ownership changes, and an industry that tried to leave them behind. 7 Cruising World Boat of the Year awards, 3 Sail Magazine Best Boats awards. Bob Johnson swam against the fin-keeled flow back in 1979, and the current never did carry him away. It turns out that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is stay traditional. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. I know there's going to be mixed opinions about Island Packets, so leave your thoughts in the comments section below.